Howdy, y'all. Today on We Ship It, we have a fun one planned. As you know, We Ship It is the podcast where we talk about our favorite and not so favorite couples from literature, TV, movies, you name it, of all time. So we're excited today. Devin, why don't you talk about what we're going to be talking about?
Absolutely. And today we're going to discuss Ben and Leslie from Parks and Rec. These two nerdy, ambitious Pawnee City Hall employees stole our hearts. Do we ship it? Listen to find out.
Hey, I'm Steph.
And I'm Devin.
And welcome to the We Ship It podcast. Today we are going to be talking about Ben and Leslie from Parks and Rec. You can all come at me for this following statement, you included, Devin, but I always liked Parks and Rec better than The Office.
We'll see.
Unpopular opinion. I know, Devin, don't kill me.
I'll try not to.
Yes, this is one of my favorite comedy shows. And I know I always freaking say that whatever we're talking about is my favorite, but I do love Parks and Rec.
It's true. But anyway, we knew we had to discuss our favorite Pawneans. These two have adorable moments, make sacrifices for each other, and have the cutest quirks.
They're adorable. Yes, they do. I just wanted to give a quick summary before we start talking about our favorite little Pawneans.
Good call.
Yes, but before I do, reminder, I just want to say spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
Excuse me. Yes, if you haven't seen Parks and Rec, first of all, go do so. But second of all, note that we are going into details about the plot during this We Ship It episode. So be on your guard. So moving on, in the beginning, when these two meet, Ben is a hard butt auditor dude and Leslie is a successful City Hall department head. Over time, they realize that they actually have feelings for one another, but they can't start dating because of the rules of City Hall that employees can't date. The two begin dating in secret, however, and are eventually forced to tell Chris, their superior. Chris makes them go through a trial, which ends in Ben's termination and Leslie's 2-week suspension.
Yikes.
Wow. But the two keep dating, and, over time, each has opportunities arise to succeed. They make sacrifices for one another. They're really cute together, and they support each other through them all. Until eventually, Ben proposes, which I cannot wait to talk about that. And the two get married spontaneously at City Hall. So then we kind of flash forward in the last, season or epilogue. I don't know how to explain it, but we flash forward and see that the two have triplets together and have enormous success together as this power couple, which I love. So yeah.
I love this show.
Sing it loud, sing it proud.
There you
Devin.
go. And with that, let's dive right in.
Let's do it. Okay. Number 1, should Ben and Leslie have jeopardized their jobs for love?
Yikes! I really don't know if doing so was the best thing for them. I mean, in the long run, yeah, sure, great, maybe, but they end up being stronger together because of all the obstacles that they encountered over the years. However, looking at it from the beginning of the relationship, it's extremely risky. They put so much stress on keeping their relationship a secret that I don't think they get to fully invest in each other.
Yeah.
Also, both Ben and Leslie are career driven. They spent a good chunk of their lives getting to where they are today. So it doesn't make sense that they would jeopardize their goals for this. But if you're looking at it in an impractical manner, you could say that what they had was so great that they would potentially throw it all away for this kind of love, this beautiful, all-consuming love. And I will say that it is a great love story to tell the kids about. It
is. And I have to say, I honestly think they should have jeopardized their jobs for love, because I think it's a stupid rule to begin with. Whenever there's a show with that trope about we can't date because we're at work, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I may have a biased view here because they're so cute and the two of them, I'm not gonna say right off the bat whether or not I ship it, but I think you're gonna get it pretty easily throughout the episode. But the two of them had something real. I think that this rule generally is put in place because it's trying to stop two people like who are maybe in an uncomfortable, lusty relationship who maybe like a relationship between a superior and an employee that just is not appropriate. But what these two had was very different to me. The fact that they struggled to break this rule, that they just were so concerned about it the whole time. It just shows you what kind of responsible people they were, what kind of how delicately they handled like important situations. And I think that says a lot about who they are as characters. And who
Very
they
true.
will be in relationship to each other. So I do think that they should have. I honestly don't think they should have done the whole bribery thing. Like, I think they should have just come forward from the beginning. I know Chris probably would have said no, but then at least like instead of going through a trial, Ben could have made the decision to just leave rather than
Right.
like go through all that crap before having to do so.
That's true.
But yeah, I think they should have broke the rules because screw those rules, man.
All right, number 2, Leslie has had her fair share of relationships throughout the 7 seasons. So she didn't end up with
Yep.
Ben. Who would you have liked to see her with?
I think there's only one answer to
Oh?
this question. I don't know, Devin. You tell me. Okay, what's the cop's name?
Oh, it is Dave Sanderson.
Yeah, okay. So I think it's Dave, Mr. Cop Guy, Dave Sanderson. He didn't meet her intellectually, which is a really important part of a relationship, but he was so good to her. He was always there for her when she called. And like, I understand he came back and he was like trying to be like, oh, Leslie, you should be with me, which is a little bit weird after like a breakup or whatever. But at the same time, he was so cute and he was so kind. And like, I don't know, Leslie just seemed decently happy when she was with him until she started to be like, I need more intellectual stimulation. I don't know. But Devin, what do you think? Who do you think she would have ended up with?
So I'm torn with this question.
You're
One
torn? What?
person I would have loved to see Leslie with in the end is Justin Anderson, Anne's lawyer friend.
Who the heck is that? I don't even remember.
He was come on. Why am I blanking on this? He was the positive guy that everyone liked, but then he was really selfish, so they kind of split from them. They went on a road trip to go get her mom's like old lover and bring him to the event, and he was really selfish about it.
Him.
Anyways, they just had an instant connection, but you could see very quickly that although Justin was a great guy, he was more invested in himself and the moments he could create than the relationship and Leslie's own interests. So, with that aside, I will go with my number 1, as Stephanie already mentioned, the police officer.
Told ya.
Dave Sanderson. I love how he was just so sweet and he cared deeply for Leslie and supported her crazy ambitions. While he was awkward at times, that only showed how vulnerable he was around her. And when he found out about Leslie's interest, he researched them so that she knew that he cared for her and what she wanted.
What a sweetheart he was.
It was a great shame when he was transferred away, but I mean, I could see that it wasn't going to work out. So I'm glad that they ended it the way that they did.
Me too. Like, they were pretty amicable about it, and he was so kind. I was really hoping she wouldn't have to hurt him, but you kind of knew, like, there were little things that he just didn't know.
Don't kick the puppy.
Yes, it was like, he's so sweet. But yeah, I definitely agree. I don't even remember that other guy. Well, I remembered him when you were talking about him, but I think that Dave was just adorable on a whole other level. But next question. What are some of your favorite all-time high moments with these two?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
While these two have like so many favorite moments.
They have so many,
they
for
really
real.
do. I'm sure you have many you all would love to share, so please reach out and send them our way. But one of my favorite opening relationship moments from these two, Ben and Leslie, is when Ben asks Leslie to get a beer at 10:30 in the morning. At first, Leslie sees Ben as a threat to her department and her friends' jobs. So she immediately pushes Ben off as a jerk and cold-hearted person. However, at the bar, Ben reveals that he is from Partridge, Minnesota, where he is known as Benji Wyatt and was elected mayor at the age of 18. When he was elected, the city went bankrupt and he was banned from the city. While that sucks, Ben opening up about his disaster in his life breaks their walls and starts their friendship. Because Leslie now sees him as someone who's willing to invest in helping Pawnee, not just someone who wants to tear it apart. So that's one of my favorite moments from the beginning. Another one of my favorites is when Leslie and Ben are put on trial to see whether she used her relationship with Ben to get special treatment. I think it just goes to show how much what they're willing to do for each other. It turns into a trial of their love and their need to defend it. And it ends in both Leslie and Ben declaring their love for the other in the court records, and their love being forever immortalized in Pawnee. There's the downside that Ben had to resign from his job in order to save Leslie's, but it goes to show
little downside.
It just goes to show what these two are willing to do for each other. So I thought that was a cool moment.
Yeah,
there are plenty of others. So
I love all of their moments, Devin. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to admit, these two never really gave me the come on kisser type of feels. Like I was never like, this is very, sexual or anything. Like that's not what I got from these two. What I got was two people who really loved each other and just like wanted what's best for one another. So like some of the scenes that are some of my favorites, they're not like these passionate, like steamy moments. They're actually just like everyday moments.
The fun,
like
quirky ones.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get into more specifics in a minute, but I love whenever Leslie talks about Ben's butt. I think that is so funny.
I love when they're at a meeting and she's like, here, look at your sheet of paper, and it's supposed to say you have a cute butt, but Jerry gets it and she's like, cute butt, because they don't want to get caught.
I love them. I love when Ben looks at the screen. It's one of my favorite things when he does that, his little asides. But the two moments that I talked about, my number one is Ben's couple's like anniversary day that he plans.
Yes. Love that.
But like Leslie's not even a part of that, but I think it is
when he goes
funniest freaking
the
thing.
Journey with Jerry.
This show's comedy is like through the roof perfect, but basically when he's like dressed up as Prince Charming or whatever in his carriage and he's like doing all this stuff, it's clear to me. It's clear even though Leslie's not there that he would do anything for this woman. And that's why I love that. And obviously, secondly, their wedding. I love it. And we're going to talk specifically about the wedding later. So I'm not going to go into detail here, but it literally makes me cry every time. I just can't. So that's another moment that just really gets to me with these two.
Love it. Moving forward, this relationship seems like a no-brainer, but why does it take them so long to become an item?
Yeah. I mean, could I just say that it adds like development to the show too? And there's always that really important like what is it? Stereotypical like we can't date because we're employees, and it just adds to like the suspense of it all. But I think if we're going in movie or in show and in character, I think the two of them are scared. And like I kind of said before, it gives them like it shows their character development from two very like rigid people who won't break the rules to two people who place priorities where priorities belong. So like I think it shows development in that. I mean, both of them are pretty rigid on the rules like for the rest of time anyway, especially Leslie. But before they take this leap, I feel like particularly Leslie and Ben are like, oh my gosh, we can't do this. And then they're sneaking around and they eventually come to the light. So it shows a huge development in that. And it shows where their priorities are. with that they love each other because they're willing to sacrifice for each other. So I think ultimately the reason is because of the rules. If those rules didn't exist, they'd probably have been together much sooner. But I think it also was just a developmental part of the show. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, their relationship does take time to take off, but once it does, watch out because it's explosive. That being said, the main obstacle, as you already mentioned, that prevents them is Chris's strict rule about employees having romantic relationships. They spend a series of episodes doting around the fine line and being distraught between what they want and what they cannot have. Another issue they face is how they work together. They both have their own manners of going about their business, and we see them constantly colliding even when they finally are together. They are able to work together in some moments, but other times they're just butting heads. So they need to allow each other their own reign in a sense, and to trust them and not have to that they know what they need to do, kind of sense. Because there's that moment that Leslie has the flu and Ben's like, I'll take care of this, and she's like, no, I gotta be there.
Oh.
So she doesn't fully trust him in that moment, but eventually she kind of like gives over control and loses her own sense of control so that he can prove himself, which is cool.
I love these two. But anyway, next question. Are there any moments you did not root for these two, and what can we learn from them?
So I hate bad mouthing these two.
Grr, Devin, grr.
But one thing I struggle to understand is Ben's constant sacrificing of his career for Leslie. Ben seems to be the only one who sacrifices for their relationship so that Leslie can continue to succeed.
The only one,
I think
Devin.
So. He does this willingly. I'm sorry, let me repeat that.
She lets him go on campaign.
Yeah, but he like loses himself so that she can continue to succeed.
Yes, I know.
Like he does this willingly for her on multiple occasions out of love. First resigning from his job at City Hall in order to avoid Leslie getting in trouble, and later quitting his job as a campaign manager in Washington in order to be with her.
But she doesn't ask for that.
Right. While they're sweet gestures, they add unnecessary stress to his life. And I hate seeing this guy suffer. I mean, he goes through some weird phases that even Leslie isn't proud of. He struggles to find himself in those moments. I'm like, what? I hate seeing you struggle, Ben. Don't do this to yourself.
I know. He's such a babe.
But I also hate the idea that the relationship starts in secret and bribery. When a maintenance worker spots them kissing, Leslie tries to cover it up by offering him a gift certificate. This act causes them even more pressure and stress on their relationship, and it also acts as a Kickstarter that gets them in trouble with Chris later on. So I don't like that it kind of starts in a bad spot. I love them. I love the secrecy, but I also like, it pains me to see them also go through that as well.
I know. And you know what? To answer this question, like I would say I'm constantly rooting for these two. It's a consistent rooting process for me. But I'd say the closest that I do come to like not rooting for them, which in this moment I am still rooting for them, but the closest that I come is when Ben gave up on himself for her. I like similarly to you. Like I don't really know, and I think Leslie agrees with the fact that she doesn't think it was the best decision. I think she would have also given up her position for him, but he just got to it first. But I do think that it's comedically amazing because we watch Ben go through this hilarious moment that when I see the claymation scene,
and then he makes that board game.
Exactly. I'm like, I feel like I've known people like this before, and it's just really, really funny. So I understand why they had to do it, honestly, for show purposes. But I don't love it for relationship purposes because it's not the healthiest thing in the world. And so I understand where you're coming from. But even in that moment, Ben did something so sacrificial that I still root for them. I still think to myself, Yeah, like love is still important. Like we shouldn't have to put our careers first all the time, but I don't love it still. I'll
Very
admit that.
true.
Yep.
True love.
True love.
All right, moving
Different
forward.
episode.
What values do we take from Parks and Recreation, from both the show and from the relationships within it as a whole?
Okay, so the first thing that I have here is make your family. I think from this show, and I know I probably stole from you, Devin, too, but
you
you'll
can still
talk
about
it.
I love it.
I won't talk too much. I think this show does a great job of like showing how a bunch of people who kind of just work together can also choose to love each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all so different. You have Ron Swanson's character, who is a hard ass. You have, who else do you have? Andy, who I just freaking love every aspect
Chris
of Andy.
Pratt's big break.
Yeah, you
Love
have
it.
Anne, you have Ben, you have Chris. They're all so different, but they choose to love each other and they choose to make like sacrifices for each other in relationship with each other to like to truly be there for one another. And I think it's this like rat pack ideology, or not ideology, this rat pack mentality, like where these people are all working together, but they're also like a little family, and you see them together everywhere. And probably everyone in City Hall is like jealous of their relationships with one another. But basically, it's like the cast feel that you would get in life.
Yeah,
like
I think it's
I
awesome.
love it. The other thing that I learned from this show is you can make waves while also respecting truth and morals. Leslie is one of the most ambitious and one of the most like truth-seeking people, like of any of the characters that I've ever known. She follows the rules and she respects authority, but she also is able to make good progress while always speaking the truth. And that's something that I really love, and I love Leslie for, but I also love the show for, because I think everyone kind of follows in her footsteps.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then lastly, love is absolutely key, but someone who loves you should also want the best for you. So this kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Love is the most important thing, but if you do truly love someone, you're not going to just let them, stew, let them sit in their own, because Ben left, but I think Leslie ended up helping him out of that hole.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like that's what's important, is that the two of them make sacrifices for one another. And that's what true love is about. So Cute. What about you, Devin?
So one of my biggest takeaways from this series is its never-ending flood of optimism that pours from each and every episode. Some could say it stems from the lead herself, Leslie Knope, but I would argue that each character plays a role in generating this feeling of complete positivity, even the grump Ron Swanson himself.
I love him. We could do a whole episode on him, too.
Just him. While a deeply silly show to its core, Parks and Recreation thrives off of the power of optimism in friends, family, marriage, community, and even the government. And who can't live without a little hope in today's culture?
We need it.
I know. And the other piece that I love is this show thrives on this idea of a family unit, like you said, in the office space. While many shows work to create this feeling, Parks and Rec seems to succeed at this very quickly and very easily. These people are more than just coworkers. They build each other up and tear each other down. Sorry, Jerry, Gary, Larry, Terry, Barry.
Oh, I love him. Every character, I'm just like, I love him. I love him. I love him.
Yeah. They support each other through thick and thin and will fight for each other. They are essential pieces of each other's lives, and that is what makes this show so special. Each is a critical piece of the Department of Parks and Recreation and to the show.
Yeah, they really are.
So I love, like, they're all huge variety in character, and I just love how they're able to come together.
Speaking of which, Devin, who's your favorite?
Oh, yikes.
Sorry, I'm this a blind side over here.
Tom has some good one-liners. I don't like his character, but I like his one-liners that he gives off.
Yeah, he is funny.
But I think my favorite has to be Ben, just because he's just like he's the nerd, but he's also just like the fighter when it comes to like putting up with Leslie, and I don't know. I think that would have to be my favorites. But again, they all have like their moments. Like Ron with his down with government and
Yep.
need to eat meat mentality. Jerry getting picked on all the time.
Yeah.
Andy just being a complete idiot but still loving
I
him
know.
all the time.
I'd have to say my
What's your
favorite character is
favorite?
probably Andy.
Really?
Probably is Andy. At the beginning he's a complete like schlep and I don't like him at all.
Right.
Because when he's living with Anne, it's like, who the heck is this? But he just grows so much, and he is the funniest part of the show.
Burt Macklin.
And yeah, he really, oh my God. I want to be Andy. I literally have on my wall, I'm looking at it right now, a quote by Andy Dwyer. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really
There
well.
you go. Is that one of
And
Shining Shoes? I love it.
And that is my life motto right there.
Love it.
But
Yeah, they're all so funny. Like April when she's just like negative about everything.
Yes.
But I
And
love
Donna and-
their story too. Anna, Andy and April.
Oh my gosh. We'll have to do an episode on that.
Yeah, April.
Love it.
She doesn't have feelings, but then she does. All right, yeah, Donna's hilarious too. Anyways, continuing. They're all great. They're all beautiful. Thank you for the gift of Parks and Rec.
Next question. How are they portrayed as being a realistic couple and not just another fairy tale relationship?
For me, Ben and Leslie are the real deal. They don't
real
live
deal.
in a fairy tale world, and they take on bigger threats than just witches and dragons. When crises arise, they are there for each other and stand by each other's sides. Ben also allows Leslie to take the reign and be her own person. I mean, is there even a way to control the entity that is Leslie? Nope.
No, indeed not.
He doesn't try to be her knight in shining armor. She was self-sufficient before him, and she will continue to be just the same long after. Their relationship takes time. It's not all gumdrops and rainbows from the start, and that's just one thing that I love about them. It takes hard work for a relationship to thrive, and we see that with them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think they go through their struggles. They're there for each other in moments of hard decisions. And I feel like we get to see in their relationship something that we all kind of go through. Obviously, not all of us are running for city council.
Right.
Not all of us are running for these positions, but we do get to see the struggle of, do I choose my relationship or my ambition?
Yeah, they're juggling.
And we see how that works
They're juggling
out.
so many things, and you have to keep that in hindsight when you're watching this. and just,
Exactly.
how does it relate to you personally in your own life? You're not running for this.
Exactly.
You're not running for this office. You're not in this department, but like apply it to your own life in some fashion.
And I think it
amazes
works
you.
so well. It works so well. I mean, you can really see like real life values that are portrayed through their relationship versus, in The Princess Bride or in like a Disney movie where we still love those movies, but they're not realistic in certain senses. Like, you have the damsel in distress and the guy that rescues her. But in this one, I mean, Leslie Knope could rescue her damn self.
Right.
And so could Ben. He could rescue his damn self. And the two of them get together. That's why I love what you said about it. That, they could both be self-sufficient. They were before, they could be after.
Right.
And that's what I think makes a strong relationship is two people who are confident in themselves and then are together in that way and respect the other's individuality, which
Love
is
it.
something that I think they do so freaking
Yeah,
well.
they really do. Moving on to our next question. How did their breakup in season 4 affect their relationship, and how did it help them as individuals?
Yeah, so their breakup here is kind of short, and it's not similar to other relationships that we see that break up in this. I'm angry at this person, and I'm never going to talk to them again, like blah, blah, blah. It seems fairly amicable, and I think more than anything to me, their breakup itself speaks to me more than like the time that they're broken up. Like, yeah, when they're broken up, they learn a lot about themselves as individuals and all of that. I think ultimately when Ben hands her that nope button, like basically telling her to go run for office, that's a huge thing. Like he
knew in advance that this is what she wanted, and
Yes. He loved her so much that he he stepped back and like was like, I can step back for you, which ultimately we talked about before. He sacrifices everything, and maybe it's too much sometimes, but that's part of Ben's character. Like, there's this whole thing going around now, like, what's your love language? And some people will say my love language is like giving or receiving or whatever. But I think Ben shows his love through really selflessly giving to Leslie at every turn. And that's what this
Always.
breakup even shows, is it's almost another moment in their relationship rather than out of their relationship, if that makes sense. But yeah, what do you think?
While the breakup is deeply heart-wrenching and difficult to swallow, I think it was necessary for them as characters. Leslie is Leslie, and she is career-driven, and Ben does not want to hold her back. This is her dream we're talking about here, and what kind of boyfriend would Ben be if he said, no, you can't do what you want to, like, you can't do that, I need you to be with me. Like, that would be selfish. So we'd only find him weak and also cruel. Instead, the breakup forces these characters to experience life without the other, however brief that might be. And Leslie learns to balance her personal life and her career. She also realizes that she, in fact, does need Ben and doesn't want to lose him. He's too great of a guy. What can I say?
Yeah.
And Ben also needs to find his passion for life. It can't always be Leslie, and he realizes that he needs to go find himself again. The breakup shows them that, romantic or not, they are a good team and they need each other to be together. So that's what I enjoy. I mean, it's terrible to see. You hate to see it happen, but like, like, even though they are breaking up, in hindsight, you're like, okay, but I know they're going to be together regardless. So
Exactly.
it's okay.
You kind of just get that feeling.
It's just a phase.
It's just a phase they needed to go through. Okay. Next question. How do Ben and Leslie embrace each other instead of working to change each other?
All right, let's face it. Ben is a huge nerd, but instead of trying to remove the nerdiness from him, Leslie falls in love with this side of him and supports him even when she doesn't understand it. So, for example, for their Stephanie and I brought up their anniversary episode. So, for their first anniversary, Leslie gets Ben an official Iron Throne from the hit show Game of Thrones. That. And Ben is, to say the least, ecstatic and blown away. He's making this stupid face and he's just like jumping around the room. So while Ben's holding back tears and acting like a little kid on Christmas Day, Leslie makes several gestures to connect with him, like to try and like support him in his excitement. And she says, our starship is in trouble, or the Force sent me. And Ben responds like, okay, why don't you just wait outside for a while? I'll take this. Like, don't ruin this for me. I know you're trying, but like, give me some space.
Side note, I love when he dresses up as Batman on the Treat Yourself episode.
He accepts that she's completely oblivious to all things nerd, and she accepts him for being his nerdy self. So I love that about them. On the flip side, Ben does not try to tame Leslie in any sense. He knows who Leslie is and that she is a loving, free spirit. He even actively works to understand her enthusiasm for some things. Like little Sebastian, for example. He doesn't get why everyone is in love with this mini horse, but he buys into it to please Leslie. Yes. Leslie's passion is her job, and he does all he can to support her, even biting a few bullets for her along the way. Her overly optimistic way of life even transforms Ben over the number of seasons that they know each other, and I love that about them. He comes in as this just bad cop mentality. Like, we have Chris Traeger, who's like this uplifting burst of energy, the good cop, but then we see Ben White as this like hard, cold-hearted bad cop, and she's able to like tear apart his demeanor and make him anew and again.
I know. I love these two, and I'm basically just gonna say the same thing. They respect each other, and like it's not even like it's not even just that they respect each other. It's that they love the things that make the other person who they are, rather than trying to change them. So like, with Ben and his nerdiness, like Leslie doesn't ever say like, "Oh, well, I can't have this kind of thing on my campaign." She just like loves it. She loves looking at his board games and she tries so hard. And I'm just like,
Was
this
it called
is
like
so cute.
Dunshire of something?
Cones of
Cones of
Dunshire.
Dunshire.
I hate it
And it
because
becomes really popular in that one at that one office that he tries to work
yes.
at.
Yes, and I love it. Oh, we have to that little office that he keeps like declining makes me so sad. Like every time he goes in there and he leaves, that's again comedy gold. The show is better than The Office. You can all come at me. But then also sort of just like you said, Ben appreciates Leslie. Like he doesn't put her on a pedestal. He knows she's flawed, but he admires her and he adores her for her hard work and for for being true to who she is. And I think you can see it sometimes in his face when he looks at her when she does something like when she does something really amazing. He just like stares at her in awe and I'm like that is what every person should be looked at like Ben is amazing. But so yeah, the two of them, they don't work to change each other. They embrace like what it is that's great about the other person, and I think they help to elevate that as well. But yeah,
Yeah, I love that. These two are amazing.
yes, they are.
All right, moving forward. Was Ben and Leslie's wedding the one you saw for them?
Absolutely. And you might disagree, okay? Because I had, there was a very similar wedding situation in New Girl where they got married in the loft or whatever.
Right.
And it was kind of like not what I saw for Nick and Jess. I mean, maybe the location was, but it just was sort of a fall flat
Nick and
moment.
Jess, didn't they get married at the hospital?
Oh yeah, they got married at the hospital. So they like tried to get married on the roof of the loft or
Right,
whatever,
something like that.
and then it didn't work. And then the hospital, it just seemed very patched together and not like them. But here's the reason I think that this wedding for Ben and Leslie really worked is because these two very rule abiding people, every moment that they have had to make a big decision has been fairly spontaneous.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they started to secretly date or when they kissed each other or, when he proposed to her or any of these things where, when I don't remember exactly what scene it was, but when Ben was like, the woman who makes all these pros and con lists, like, you really want to do this? And she's like, yeah. Every moment that's brought them together has been a moment where they set aside their sensible selves and they just did it. And that's why I think that this wedding was so incredible because they had everyone there that they needed to be there, all the people they wanted to be there. And they also just like did it, which was so beautiful for the two of them. It was just something that I know they were planning to get married in May and it would have been lovely. But I feel like the two of them, their relationship is their little bit of like lovey chaos in their lives of like very orderly stuff. So I don't know. I really liked it. What do you think, Devin?
So for me, I have mixed feelings, but I majority lean on the sides of yes. I don't know if I love that they get married at the parks office or I hate it, but I think it works for them. That's where they met, and that's the place that they call home in a sense. And they are surrounded by their family, the parks people. While they act hastily and move their wedding up 3 months, they can't wait to be with each other and don't want to waste another moment apart. Ben has spent his life wandering around everywhere looking for Leslie. And that he actually says that in his
The vows?
his vows. He actually says that in his vows, and I love the intimate nature of their wedding. It's not perfect, but it's what they wanted, and I love that. I love them.
I just love. Oh, okay. When Leslie says, the things that you've done for me to help me, support me, surprise me, and make me happy go above and beyond what any person deserves. You're all I need. I love you and I like you. How freaking adorable is that? I always cry every time I see it.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that.
I love you and I like you.
It's so cute. So, moving on, how has their relationship made them better people?
So I already mentioned this before, but when we first meet Ben, He was closed off and didn't understand the beauty of Pawnee and its people. However, over time, Leslie breaks Ben out of his shell, and he falls in love with all things Pawnee, especially Leslie. His first moment of appreciating the community of Pawnee is when the government shuts down and Leslie tries to hold a concert for the town and its kids. However, when Freddie Spaghetti, their big performer, can't make it, Ben drives to pick him up, and on top of that, offers to pay him more money to attend Leslie's event. Like, what a guy, Ben. This is the first, like, moment I'm like, yeah, Ben.
Yeah, get it, Ben.
Get it. But there's even that moment where they go out of town together for a mission that Chris gives them, and they're sitting at the dinner table, and he's like, I love working at Pawnee. And he's talking about Leslie, but he uses Pawnee as a metaphor for Leslie. And I love that, like, he falls in love with the city and her at the same time. And it's just like, all right. With Leslie, during the first 2 seasons, we see her doing a balancing act between her job and her personal life. Then Ben walks into her life and everything hits the fan as she can no longer balance these 2 pieces of her life, since Ben is both part of her job and her personal life. She learns that she needs to make some choices. Ben helps her realize that there's more to life than work, that she doesn't always have to be the next big thing. Ben still supports her and encourages her, but he also helps her realize that just being Leslie and Ben at home is okay too.
Yes. Okay. I literally have nothing to add. You pretty much just summed up like everything I was going to say. The 2 of them sort of level each other in a way. Leslie brings Ben out of his hard, I keep saying it, but his hard butt self in the beginning. She brings him to a more fun and loving place. She brings him to accept himself even and get over his past failures. She helps him through all of that. And Ben sort of brings her down a notch. I mean, Leslie is so intense. But he pushes her to accomplish more, but he also pushes her to take care of herself, which is something I feel like Leslie doesn't do.
Yeah, their really big first event that they do together is the Harvest Festival.
Yes.
And this is almost like a reiteration of Ben's Ice Town disaster, where he ran out of money and his town went in bankruptcy. But so it's another reiteration of that, and there's that period of time where they're like, it's cursed because they're on this Indian reservation and yada yada, and Ben's like, no, it's me, and Leslie's like, no, you're wrong, like, we're gonna do this and it's gonna be awesome. So I love that that's their moment of like coming together and kind of like not fixing, but just like kind of like patching and healing Ben's brokenness from years before.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Last question. Here we go. Do we ship it?
Do you really need me to answer this question?
I know, right?
I love them. I think that they are such a good example of a realistic couple who it is hilarious for the comedy side of things, but also just loves each other and just has these heartwarming moments and takes care of each other and elevates each other and brings each other down to earth. And like, it's all just like, it's everything. It's everything a relationship should be. There are moments that we don't love, when Ben's sacrificing perhaps too much of himself, but ultimately relationships are not perfect. They're flawed. But this relationship is damn near as close to perfect as you can get. So what do you think, Devin?
Obviously, I love these 2. They are so beautiful together. I laugh at all things Ben and Leslie, even Leslie's side comments about Ben's butt. They're just a beautiful entity, and I appreciate them for their constant nature of being together and wanting to support one another. I love that about them. You see them go through their highs and their lows, and it's a really amazing relationship that you get to join them on. So I think it's really cool.
Couldn't agree more. Love it. Okay, so moving on. So, man, I love these 2. Okay, so now let's read some comments. We wanted to hear from people who watch the show. What do you guys think about these 2? Do you ship it? So the first one that we have is from Abby. Abby writes, "Oh, I love them. It's beautiful to see two characters who can hold their own and also have the capacity to balance each other out. Their compassion is everything, and I love that they are quirky and weird and not a stereotypical couple in love." Yes, thank you,
Yeah,
Abby.
so
We
true.
talked about this before, actually,
Mm-hmm.
that they can both hold their own and have the capacity to balance each other out. That's a great way to put it. That they're two individuals who just really like love and respect each other. So thank you for that, Abby.
Yes, thank you, Abby. So amazing. Next, we have some commentary from Mary. She
Mary.
says, I love them. I appreciate how they're very different people who don't try to change each other, but help each other grow. The episode that really gets me is when Ben decides to leave his job in DC to propose to Leslie. That's got to be
Oh,
one of the sweetest acts of
I
love I've
know.
seen on TV in a while. Ah, it's so good.
It really
When he
is.
comes in, he's like, "I'm thinking about my future." I'm like, ah.
Such a moment.
And I love when there's that episode when Leslie finds out that she's pregnant and Ben is somewhere. I think he's with Ron and they're getting like wasted or something. And then he comes back like drunk to the house and he's like, "I want to start a family." She's like, "Well, I got some news for you, buddy." Oh, it's so cute. I love it.
love them. But thank you to both of our commenters.
Yeah, thank you guys so
Now,
much.
we must move on to the moment you've all been waiting for, the announcement of our next episode. Devin, tell us, who are we talking about in episode whatever number is next at this point?
15? I think it's 15.
Who's next?
Well, we are talking about Catherine and Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights.
Yes.
This dark and obsessive couple has fans swooning, so we want to see why.
Yep. Warning on this one. I have opinions
She's
about
got
these
opinions.
two. I have opinions. So tune in to find out what those are. And if you have any comments on these two whatsoever, we would love to include them.
Yes, thank you all so much for listening. We love you all and are so excited to keep sharing our thoughts with you. Please find us on social media. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, and on our website at www.weshipitpodcast.wixsite.com/weshipit.
Yes, and we want to hear from you. So if you'd like to be featured or sent in comments for the show, please email us at weshipitpodcast@gmail.com or message us on any of our social media. You guys are absolutely amazing. We're so excited to continue doing this. And farewell. Bye-bye, Lil Sebastian.
I love it.
See
See
you next
everybody.
time.
Bye, guys.